Hey, and welcome to another Main Contained Fishing podcast in sister and host with the Paddle and Fin Network, guys. Tonight, we're bringing you two special guests. They are a panel of anglers here in Georgia, out of the middle of Georgia at that. And we're just going to break it down for them. We got a series of questions we're going to ask them. And we're just going to let them explain their story, how they get into kayak bass fishing, how they enjoy it, how does it help them in their everyday life as far as mentally. And we're just going to break it down. So let's kick this show off. Hey, and welcome to the Main Contained Fishing Podcast. As you can see, I've got two whole guests on the show with me tonight. And so we're just going to kick this thing off and kind of let them introduce themselves, where they're from. And so my guest up top, Mr. John, let's kick it off with you, man. Just tell me where you're from and kind of give us a background of you a little bit.
All right, my name is Jonathan Langford. I'm the closest city I grew up to is Macon, Georgia. I'm from Culloden, Georgia, and I appreciate Mr. Daniel for having me on.
Corey?
So I'm Corey Richardson, originally from Dayton, Ohio, moved to Millersville, Georgia here 2 years ago, and I'm just ecstatic to be here. Thank you, John. Dave.
Hey, man, and welcome to y'all's first ever podcast, right? Live.
Yeah.
where you get to talk about fishing, and that's what we do on the Main Contained Fishing Podcast. You know, we talk about just everyday life, how things have changed our life of fishing, how it de-stresses you, how you get out on the water and you're just surrounded by nature and it's just peaceful, no worries, anything like that. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of break down the questions for each of you, and just we'll go one at a time and kind of tell us. On the first question is, John, how did you get into the kayak bass fishing world or bass fishing? Anything like that? How did you become a bass fisherman?
Well, it's a funny story you asked about that. Well, make a long story short, in the beginning, I always grew up around fishing and hunting and all that stuff. My daddy used to take us out to me and my mama to Lake Oconee. We used to camp out in a boat, a fiberglass boat under the bridge, and you wake up bitching all. But I was real young then. I was probably 4 or 5 years old and seen my first bald eagle. But I've always been around, the outdoor stuff. Grew up in the middle of nowhere, so to speak. But it wasn't until I always bass fish. I actually caught my two biggest fish unintentionally at Lake Juliet out of my great granddaddy's wooden boat he made back in the 1970s. Had a 67 Inyerview on it. So I used that to go out to Juliet a lot, and so that's where it kind of kicked it off for me. But I didn't quite grasp the bass fishing, so to speak, because every time you watch those outdoor channels, and it was when they caught a fish, they continue to sell you the bait. It's like it's just about selling baits. This ain't, and bait casters, man, I hated them. I just absolutely hated them. But but as time go on and I got married to my second wife, her daddy gave us a 16-foot at the time, or made in the 90s, or called a panfish tracker, if that's correct. I acquired that, and then that's when it kind of kicked it off. I started surfing YouTube, and I didn't know the power of YouTube. If I knew what I know now, 25 years ago, it'd have been a different ball game for me. I'll probably be sitting in one of these big tournaments somewhere. But but unfortunately, I didn't get into the game too late because I didn't know the power of YouTube. But
Right.
anywho, so that's where it kicked it off for me, and it was just downhill from there. I started buying my first two bait casters were from Bass Pro. You go back there in the back to the bin, and you get the ones that's read man for $30. You go home and you cast it for 3 or 4 times, and it falls apart. So that's where I started, and I had a blast. I learned to bait caster in 5 minutes, and I said, yeah, I'll never touch another spin cast again, unless I'm fishing for panfish. but but yeah, so I got let's see. So getting into kayak fishing from there, just seeing these guys kayak fishing, everything you see, that looks like a lot of fun. I enjoy being in the boat, but as I started learning more about the kayaks and started trying to hunt one down, and a coworker of mine had a lifetime for Walmart, and I said, "Man, you want to sell that kayak?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll take $100 for it." I said, "All right, well, I got a smoker. You want that? Sure, we'll trade." So that's how I inquired a kayak, and I upgraded it and upgraded the seat. You can go to Walmart, buy one of those collapsible bleacher seats and put on there, and it really works. It's awesome. But I really enjoy kayak fishing. To me, it brings me closer to God's creation and to the environment, and just being out there. It is so much different than a boat, even though they're still classified as a boat. It is totally different from a boat in a way because you're in it, man. You're in it. There ain't nothing like catching my biggest fish, my biggest bass so far is a 8 pounder, and splashing a big old 8 pounder across your lap. You don't get that in a boat. You just
No.
don't get that kind of experience in a boat. So, just learning everything on YouTube and then creating my own YouTube channel, and then just the experience of it all has really changed my life because it's brought me to a place where I should have been 25 years ago.
Right. So Corey, tell us how you got into the kayak bass fishing world.
Well, it's like John. I've been around fishing most of my life, but as far as bass fishing then kayak fishing, it wasn't until 2020, when the pandemic happened, and having to stay in the house all the time. I'm a personal trainer by trade, so during that time, that's all I did was train clients. I was always at the gym, and when I couldn't do that, I was training clients online. But it was like, what can I do in the meantime? And it was a stream down the street from my house. It was a little creek, so I used to go wading in that, and start seeing YouTube channels. My first YouTube fishing show was Creek Fishing Adventures. Used to watch him wade. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go do the same thing. I'm gonna go have adventure, just wade in the creeks. Can't do nothing else. But then I came across the kayak video, and I was like, oh, neat. That looks interesting. Because I was in the Navy, so I'm used to boats. So I said, well, shoot, something like this I can do is feasible. I can afford it. So let me go ahead and buy me a kayak. Came across a guy. He was selling, like John, he was selling a Lifetime. He was selling the Tamarack. He had bought I didn't want to say he bought like a load of them, and he was selling them on Facebook Marketplace. So I grabbed one for $200. And from there, it's been on and going, After that, I moved down here. I sold my kayak and moved down to Georgia and didn't have one. So I was like, well, I'm going to see if I can find something. And I'm working at Goodwill, where I'm a manager right now. And somebody had donated a kayak. And so happened we had a shopping weekend. So I bought it. It was an inflatable kayak. It was a Savoia. I bought that. It lasted me for a good, about a good year. And after that, I lost one of the air valves. The air valves would come off. I lost one of the valves. So I said, okay, well, let me see if I can find another one. I found me an Intex Excursion. I had that for a year. Still have it, actually. It was great. fished out of it for a year, did some, online tournaments, but I couldn't stand up in it. And I got tired of sitting down for 8 to 12 hours a day, so I was like, okay, well, again, I've got me a NRS Cuda and been on it ever since. I love it. Kayak fishing to me is everything because, like John said, I get to be out in it. I get to get down and touch the water if I want to. There's no restrictions with a kayak.
What's great is sticking your feet over the edge and cooling off in the
Yes.
summertime. You get your feet wet, it's like it cools your body down. You can't do that in a boat. Well, I guess you could, but you boys like it to fall in.
And then even with a boat, you can't go on the river and then hit a shallow part where you can just drag the kayak and wade on down the stream. You can't do that with a boat. So kayaks, you can do everything with. I love it.
Right. So kind of tell you a backstory of me, and I don't know if y'all know this, but I was in the bass boat world and came to the kayak world.
Mm-hmm.
So like everybody, I bought my first kayak from Walmart. It was a Lifetime Angler 116. And fished out of that for a year. And I had a good buddy that owned a kayak shop in Athens, outside of Athens, and he had a heck of a deal on the new Canoe F12. And so I kind of sweet talked the wife.
Yeah.
And said, hey, let's go to Athens and buy a new kayak. And so I've been in that boat ever since, and I like my new canoe, man. It's a river fishing machine. It's kind of got like a style of a canoe, but also wide enough. And my big, I'm a big boy. I'm 6'3", 280, and
Gotcha.
And
it'll hold me, and I can stand up in it. So that's my backstory.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I gotta get. Go ahead. I was gonna say I gotta get Corey and John Wilson to take me on the river because I almost drowned in the river. So it's kind of breaking one of them fear grips I got. I'm not scared to get on the river. It's just I need the experience y'all two got, man.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the second question I have for both of y'all is, I'm kind of throw a twist to this. Okay. If you had the money to purchase a boat and you had the money to purchase a kayak, what would you purchase?
Well, I guess that goes on personal preference. What kind of, as far as future goes, what are you looking for as far as future now? I know you get older and kayaks are, that for me, that's why I'm in the market of trying to find me a stable kayak. I don't care what brand it is as long as it's quality and it's stable, because that I think that's going to be my future is kayak fishing due to the price of everything. It's a little bit more affordable on that end. I guess it depends on the direction in your life you're gonna go with it. My opinion is, if I was to spend the money and you wanted a kayak fish, then buy you a good kayak. Unless you think you're gonna wind up getting in some kind of boat tournaments or something like that. That's the only way I know how to answer that question. Corey,
Right.
what you think?
With me, I would say the same thing. Now, if you was to ask my wife, she gonna say a boat. Because she won't get in the kayak. And she keeps telling me, I get in the kayak if I can get in with you.
Mm-hmm.
But me, yeah, I would get a kayak. Because like I said, it's more feasible. I don't have to have a whole trailer and all that. Now, of course, I do want one, so I don't have to break down my kayak all the time. But I don't have to have a trailer. Any and everybody can do it. You don't have to have a lot of money to go buy, a kayak. So, me personally, it would be a kayak.
Okay. So I'm gonna kind of throw another twist in here, and me coming from a boat world into a kayak world, I can kind of tell y'all the difference in it and what I enjoy out of it.
Okay.
You know what boat stands for, right?
Yeah, about spending $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. Bust out another.
It's getting that way with kayaks too now.
Yeah.
But No, you know you're talking about fuel cost, insurance on a boat.
Yeah.
Golly, you know, any kind of fuel line or electrical line goes wrong in that boat, you've got now you're without something to get on the water, right?
I tell you, the biggest thorn in my side with a boat, batteries, man. Dang batteries.
Yeah.
I could deal with the gas and the bearings going out the trailer, but batteries, man, gosh.
Yeah, they are a heartbreak.
Get some solar panels and stack on top of the motor.
So, but yeah, it's you know, you a lot of anglers ask this a lot in kayak fishing because, you know, how many times have y'all been to a boat ramp? You pull up in your kayak, getting ready to load up, and people are like, "Man, you really fish out of that thing? You really go on that big lake in that thing?"
I haven't experienced that yet, so this ought to be good.
And even on the river, Corey, y'all fish the Okmulgee River a lot, right? You and John.
The Oconee. We fish the
Oconee River. You know, that's a pretty wide river.
Yes, it is.
And that river moves when the lake when they're pushing water off that lake.
Yes.
So, you know, you're paddling down or pedaling down past these folks, and they're like, "Really, you're in this? Dude, there's alligators bigger than this." But yeah, that's kind of where I think is people have to look at is what their budget is and where they want to kind of go with their budget and kind of stay within their budget, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll throw a little nugget in here, and I don't know, do y'all follow Brian Latimer any?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I know Brian real well.
Well, I'm sure y'all seen his new video. It's more towards the bank angler, but I think it kind of goes along with what we're talking about and why they're kind of shunning the bank angler because they don't buy the big boat, they don't buy the truck, you know, they don't buy all the expensive gear, and I think that's where, you know, when it comes to a boat, that's what the image is, especially with all the bass tournaments now. That's just, you know, once you get into it, you go down a rabbit hole so dang deep, you don't see the light of day. When you get into this tournament stuff and watching all these YouTube videos, it'll make you brain dead in such a way because you kind of forget reality that there's a lot of guys that get in this stuff. They already sitting on tons of money, so you have to understand that a lot of that is an image, so to speak.
It is because if you really look at the whole bass world industry, and Gerald Swindle is probably the most.
I like Gerald.
I
love his
most is he came from a family that didn't have a whole lot. He worked all his career. You know, he'd work Monday through Friday, load up, go fish a tournament, come back home, be on the job site on Monday morning. In my opinion, he would be a great podcast to just listen to. If he would just get on the mic and just record his stuff, I would probably listen to his stuff 24/7, even in my sleep, because he has a heck of a story to tell.
Yeah,
I bet.
Yeah, and so it's I wouldn't say that's where people need to go to is the boat world in order to get sponsorships and stuff like that. I'm getting down a rabbit hole here I don't want to go down, so I'm
oh yeah, it can go real deep.
I'll keep on topic here because I can just go for that for hours, but
well, it's like Brian Latimer said, you know, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on a boat. You can go get a 15-foot John boat because that's what he fished out of. And it's just like Gerald Swindle. That's how Brian Lambert came up. He actually started his own loan business to get into bass tournaments. Then he sold the loan business. Now he's full-time fisherman. So you don't need the 21-footer bass boat and all the screens to have the fun out of the fishing.
Right. So, yeah, it's it's a whole new world out here. You know, as far as the kayak world, and you know, boat anglers don't like kayakers, kayakers don't like boaters, or jet skiers or whatever.
I don't like jet
Uh,
skiers. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
but yeah, so I'm gonna kind of put this out here to y'all. Is how does bass fishing as a whole help you mentally as a person? Because our mental status in this world today is a lot different from when we were growing up.
Right,
Uh,
yeah, so true. So
the,
true.
the culture has changed 360. It's spin around 360 and going back around again. So tell me how bass fishing, the outdoors, being in the outdoors, has physically and mentally helped you in your life.
Well,
Go ahead, Corey.
so for me, physically, it's another way of keeping in shape. You know, like I said, being a personal trainer, that's something that I try to do is stay in the best shape as possible. Well, in a kayak, before I have my motor, I'm paddling with the paddle, so use the upper body strength, you know. And then when you hit certain parts on the river, you still got to wade. So going through water, that's resistance. You know, mentally, like John said earlier, it's time for me to get out and be in God's creation, to be one with God. You know, I get to. I even told my wife when I was still back in Ohio when we just talked on the phone before we started dating and then eventually got married. I said, this is something for me to mentally get in contact with God every day and see the way He wants me to go. You know, because if you watch nature, you watch the birds, you watch the rabbits, whatever, they're always in constant communication with God. He leads them everything they need to do. It's second nature to them. So we should be able to do the same thing. You know, but we get so distracted by everything else that we forget this. We're animals just like they are.
Right. John?
Well, quick backstory on that. Like I said earlier, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and all we had was hunting land around us. So just growing up playing in the woods and building forts and shooting, hunting squirrel and stuff like that. And I didn't have TV when I grew up. I had a radio. Yeah, I'm 20. I'm 39 years old, so I grew up in the 90s. Yeah, I didn't have a TV. I know it's probably a shock to a lot of people, but I thank God for that because it allowed me to be more connect with things that wasn't so sociable, so to speak, if that makes any sense. Not
Yeah.
everything you get from TV
Yeah.
and whatnot. So just being in the outdoors is my number one thing. And I never gravitated to the sports life. I don't connect with the sports. I'm like I said, just the fishing and hunting and everything, and just bass fishing. Once I really grasped it and started understanding, and especially doing it in a kayak, you don't get the same effect in a boat like you do in a kayak. When you're in a kayak, and I know they put motors on them and everything now, and me personally, I think that takes away from the kayak, but that's another subject. That could go down a rabbit hole real deep and make some folks mad. But
Yeah.
anyway, when you're in a boat, it's fast paced.
Yeah.
If you're not sitting there with a bobber, if you're bass fishing in a boat, it's fast paced. You constantly on that trolling motor. In a kayak, if you're paddling, and I guess you can get the same way with a pedal, Corey. I don't know. I haven't been in a pedal one yet, but when you're paddling, you're fishing, everything's slow pace. Even though you're casting 100 times, within a 100-yard stretch, but you're slowed down a little bit. You're more focused on what you're doing. Like, okay, there's a bush. I'm gonna hit that bush 500 times before I get out of here. And
Yeah.
I really want to fish this other bush really bad, but I'm gonna fish this one first because just the paddling takes a little time out of your
Oh yeah.
day moving a kayak around. If you're paddling that. But yeah, it's really you know break stuff down for you mentally. You want to focus on what you're doing, and it's not as fast paced as like being in a boat, if that makes sense.
Right.
Um, but yeah, my biggest fish, it was in the kayak.
Mm. Yeah.
8 pounders, 8 pounds. I'm 2 pounds from 10. I think I caught one time, but it got off. It got off. I could not turn his head for the life of me. All I heard was line screaming. I couldn't. I was and the chatterbait just popped out of his mouth. I said
Oh,
that had to be a 10 plus. There's no way that could have been smaller.
Yeah. So the way it has helped me mentally, yeah, I've converted over to a motor. Um, I used to paddle, and I'll get in some backwater where I can't run that trolling motor and I have to pull it up. I'll still paddle.
mm-hmm.
But mentally, it kind of helps you get away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life.
Right.
Everybody's got one of these in their hand. You're constantly with my type of work. I deal with people every day. I'm always on the phone with somebody at work, and I'm just like, man, just let me be. And
airplane mode.
yeah. and I know you work in the retail industry, Corey.
Yeah.
So even though I work pretty close to home, I still have in the afternoons I have about an hour ride. So that's my kind of bring down time. That's kind of bring down time. Just like being out in the fishing in the kayak and everything. It's kind of okay. This is my world. This is our world, and we just want to kind of decompress. And yeah, I'm pretty sure y'all have said some choicey words when you miss a fish or lose a fish at the kayak, like we always do, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think I think it helps us to get away from the outer world and bring us back into our inner world and our inner peace.
Right.
I'm not big on philosophy and all that, but I'm no flower child that I go sit in my backyard and meditate for 9 hours. No, I'm not that person. But yeah, it's so kind of carrying on into that. Corey, I know you're a personal trainer, and I kind of want to throw this out to you is, does the personal training and the fitness kind of exercising the same way as help you decompress mentally and physically, or?
It does in a sense, and I say that because when you're out on the water, you're by yourself. Especially in a kayak, you're out there with nobody else unless you got several people with you, but they're still maybe down the bank some or on the other side of the lake or the other side of the river, whatever. In the gym, you go to a gym, you got, I'll say a couple of gyms that I go to here, you got maybe 60 or 70 people there anyway. So you're still not having the time to yourself. You can put your headphones on like my wife does, and like I tell her all the time, having your headphones on is good. You're gonna cut everything out, but you're still seeing everything else. So you're still gonna be somewhere distracted. You see something over here that ain't supposed to happen. Oh my goodness! But you're still trying to work out. Your mind is still thinking on other things. When I'm out on the water, it's like only thing I'm caring about is me, the water, the fish. I might see a deer over here, or I might see a water moccasin over here. But other than that, I'm focused on nothing else but what I'm doing then and there. Or if I'm like I said earlier, if I'm out there and I'm going to another spot, I'm just paying attention to nature, being around with God. That's it.
Yeah. Have y'all ever caught y'all? Let me throw this out to y'all. Have you ever caught yourself just you're looking at an animal out there on the bank or in the water, and before you know it, you're like memorized by them.
Yep.
I like watching the deer walking down with me. You see one. You know, it's like, dang, that's cool. You know, just
Yeah,
see them in their natural
yeah,
state.
Mm-hmm.
and they're so quiet.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they they're stepping. You see a 60, 70 pound animal in the woods stepping on limbs. You would think they would make a whole lot of noise, but they don't.
No.
But
You ever
that
seen one
kind of
cross?
across the water.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I've
Yeah.
had many a deer swim
I seen
across
one
the
at Juliet, Lake Juliet. I seen one crossing water.
So it just that goes back to the mental part of it. You're like, man, that's neat. Or seeing a bald eagle for the first time.
Yeah.
You're like, crap, I've never seen one that close. Um,
You'd
so
be,
So
yeah,
you'd be
a lot of
surprised how
people
many
don't.
bald
A lot
eagles
of
are
people
in
really
Georgia. I've
don't
seen them
realize.
all the way down at Eastman.
yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't
hmm
realize how relaxing it is out there.
Oh yeah, it's
So
totally
relaxing.
relaxing
Yes.
until you miss a big fish and lose it at the
Right.
kayak or something. But yeah, it's so kind of moving on, and we've been going for about 30 minutes, guys. These things last, they go pretty quick, but you're like, man, an hour's already gone up. Yeah.
Right.
So kind of, I'm gonna bring this question up, and y'all answer it the way that you want to answer it. Is what if an angler had a limited budget? Okay, if an angler has a limited budget, how would you suggest to them that they get started in either bass fishing as a whole or into kayak bass fishing?
Well, I say if I'll go ahead and straight up tell you, I'm a poor man. All right, so if I had to do it now, uh, Lifetime has actually came out with a new kayak. It's called a Manta. Okay, and this thing is stable as all get out. It is amazing what they've done with this boat, this kayak. They do have I think it's called a Yorkin. Yorkin.
Okay. Yeah.
That one's pretty darn stable too. It's actually side by side with them doing testing with the Pelican. What is it called? The Pelican.
Catch 120 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what.
You can about compare it with that. They're pretty close to there. The Pelican may have a little edge on it, but I say if you want to buy a good stable fishing kayak to start out with, I say the Manta, man. If it's got like a pontoon style deal, or the Yorkin. Either one of those starting out, if you can afford to do that starting out. I think the Yorkin is what, $5.99, and the Manta is $6.99. You know,
Yeah.
you can do enough side work in a couple weekends to make that money. I do it. And I have to pay bills and daycare and child support. I get it done. But starting out, yeah, as far as a boat goes, if you want to get in kayak fishing, David, what else you want to know out of that question while I'm still thinking on it? Gear
What kind of
or anything?
yeah, just let's talk about a rod and reel, a simple rod and reel setup that a beginner
Okay.
can just save up their money,
Yeah.
and go, okay, well, I want to go purchase this rod and this reel, and it will get me started.
Right. Rod and reel, and a lot of people's probably gonna hate me for this one because I know Lose is a big time thing out there. Do not buy the Lose from Walmart. Get the Abu Garcia Black Max. Okay, that is a dang good reel, and I wouldn't get no other one that simply because that one's been around and it is lasted, man. It's I got a Shimano XSL SLX 99 reel, and it started to make a bunch of noise. It was $99. I've never had a Black Max make no noise, man. And that's a solid reel. I don't know about the new ones, but the older ones were bricks, man. They were great. That I like the Hank Parker Lose rod. That's been a good rod. If you want to go to Lose, the Lose Hank Parker rod, heck, that thing's what, $45 on sale. Um, Any of the Lose rods now, I ain't got a problem with the Lose rods. I just didn't like the reels. They gave out too quick. But the Abu Garcia, I wouldn't. The Abu Garcia at Walmart, if you want to spend the money on a reel, the white one. What's the white one? It's like $89.
Yeah, I think that Max Z or something like that.
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
one's been. As a matter of fact, if y'all watch Tactical Bassin, they recommend that one for a starter.
yeah.
You know, the Abu Garcias, man, they're good on their stuff. You know, if you want to go on the budget reel from Walmart,
Right.
but I don't have. I mean, any of the luge rods are good. I've never had no problems out of luge rods. You know, you can get a $60 luge rod and pair it up with that Black Max, dude. I think you're solid all day. And any spinning reel rod combo, luge or Abu Garcia, I don't think you go wrong with either one. I never had problems out of neither one of them. But
Corey?
that's just my opinion on
Yeah.
that.
I know. I agree because my first rod, my first bait caster, I'm gonna say, my first bait caster, I bought from Walmart. It was an Abu Garcia, but it was I can't think of the name of it. It's the beginner one that's got the little lock on the front. It doesn't have any brakes to it, but it has a little lock on it. That's how I learned how to cast a bait caster. I bought that thing for like $49. You know, I ended up giving it to my youngest son. You know, but if I'm gonna talk to somebody and they ask me how to get something on a budget, my thing would be, okay, well, and I have two of them. Go with a Cast King Brutus. It's $29, and then get a Cast King Cyrus X rod. It's $49. Right there, I have two of them. I have a medium heavy rod and I have a medium rod, and both of them have Brutuses on them. And I love them both. I have no problem with them. I had them for about a year now. You know, and as far as a kayak, I'm with you on the Lifetime. You can't go wrong with the Lifetime because, you know, budget wise, you can go grab one, like you said, in a weekend, maybe a week, go make the money and go grab one. You'd be good to go. You know, now me personally, I have inflatables, so I can always say, you know, you can go get an Intex inflatable, but I know most people want super stability. I was stable in it, but you know, I got great balance. Most people don't have that, so I wouldn't just want to put anybody in an inflatable. I would get them something that can have a little bit more stability to it. But yet,
See
I
I was gonna say, did you see the inflatables on iCast? Them things,
yeah,
dude. The
Yeah.
technology
the
is crazy what they've come with those.
wilderness system one, the new one, is nice. It's real nice. Now the reason why I use inflatables is because I don't have a truck. You know, I'm driving a Ford Fusion, so just throw everything in the back of there and I can go. I ain't got to put nothing on top of the car.
Right.
But
That's
you
that's
know,
a good point. You forget there's a lot of people don't have trucks
right.
and they live in apartments, so
Yeah,
inflatables, yeah.
that's the thing. You know,
Which
I
I don't
got
know nothing about an inflatable, you know.
one of my one of my assistants at my job. He's thinking about getting into kayak fishing, and that's what I told him. I said, well, let's think about this. You have a Honda. You know, you got a Honda Accord. Do you want to put a kayak on top of your car? Well, I don't know about that. Do you want to get a trailer? I don't know about that. Okay, well then, let's look at inflatables. You want to look at inflatable? You want something stable because you really don't know how to swim that good. Then you can look at the NRSs. You can look at this wilderness system right here, and you got some Sea Eagles. You know, it depends on what you really want, how much
Yeah.
you want to really spend. You know, my oldest son, he's been talking about doing it. So that's why I talked about him. I talked to him and say, okay, what kind of budget are you looking at? Are you looking at spending a couple $1,000 or maybe $1,000? You know, if it's maybe $1,000, we can get you something, you know, super cheap. But if you want to spend more than that, here's some other things that you can do. He's a big guy too. He's 6'4", 300 pounds. You know what I mean? So, like I told him, it all depends on how much you want to spend, and then we also got to look at your size. Because you're not going to be able to just get into a regular inflatable and you 300 pounds. But you ain't going to be able to get into the average big box kayak either. So,
Right.
but yeah, those would be what I would suggest to a person. And like I said, the Cast Kings, I love them. I know a lot of people don't like them. You know, they say they cheaply made or whatever. I haven't had a problem with them at all. I got a loose classic, like you was talking about, John. That reel
Hey,
right
that
there.
Lose Classic, that's a good reel, man. I forgot about the
reel
Lose Classic.
That reel
That's a
gives me
good
a
reel.
headache. because every time I go to cast it, the bail pops back up. I'm like, hold on. I'm like, I know I pushed it down. You know, my Abu Garcias, I love them. I got the Max Z, and I have a Pro Max. I'm thinking about getting the Black Max, but yeah, my Cast Kings, I love them. Those are my first and foremost. Those are the ones I grabbed first, and then my Abus. Of course, my Luz is the last one I grabbed.
Well, Cash King, they're really putting themselves out there. Gene Jensen, he's with Cash King now. You know, he was 13 Fishing. They got bought out by Rapala or whatever. But
Pure Fishing Group.
Yeah, I need to try out some Cash King. Pacific Fun on Amazon. You know, if you want to go, I have a Torrent too. That thing is smoother than my darn Shimano's. My brother has it now, and it sits in the back of his truck, gets a beating. I'm telling you, the frame's a little tweaky, you know, because it's carbon plastic stuff. But I tell you, that Torrent 2, I was very impressed. $45.
Yeah. So
Pacific Fun.
Corey, going back to what you're saying about Cast King, is I actually personally know the developer for Cast King. He lives down in Savannah. He's worked in the industry for 40 years with other companies, but he's come in on Cast King now, and I actually have a meeting with him, a phone call meeting with him Friday.
Okay.
But yeah, you talk about the budget. You know, that's what a lot of people, you know, they see us all as kayak people. Man, we got rod stack behind us, all kind of tackle, and you know, in a nice little plastic boat.
Like, how you getting your kayak?
Yeah, they're like, how do you float? But no, it's something that I'm personally working on myself. My wife's in the background working on it. Is I want to kind of reach out and be more of a budget type person.
Yes.
To get more people in, you know, I can say, hey, you can go get this boat, get this rod set up, get these baits, and you're 100% set.
Right.
You know, $1,000 out the door.
Yeah.
And I know $1,000 is a lot of money to some people, and the way the industry, you know, the way the economy's going and things like that. But it's just getting people out onto the bank. You know, just like John was saying, that Brian Latimer's putting out a bank series. And hey, I started out bank fishing as a kid.
I still bank fish, man.
If I see a pond, I was like, man, I don't want to throw my, you know, I could throw my kayak in there, but really, it's got some good looking spots. I can just slip in there behind that pine tree and flip a jig. Or
I caught more big fish off the bank than I have in any vessel.
Yeah, I can't say that.
Yeah.
Even in the wintertime, off the bank, I've caught a lot of big fish.
And my wife likes to bank fish. You know, she likes to catch catfish and brim.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where most people start out, you know, sitting on the bank fishing. You know, my granddaddy would get in the boat, but my granddaddy, man, that joker would take his cane pole, head down to the creek, walk the creek 9 miles in and 9 miles out.
You had to get that good spot, man.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's that's where I kind of want to bring more people on, and that's what we're doing this cast for. That y'all are the kind of guinea pigs of the beginning of bringing angler. You know, I'm not saying high dollar anglers. I'm not saying mid. You know, y'all are in the mid grade. I would say in the mid grade level as anglers, and because if you have somebody here on a high end note, you know, they're fishing the Bassmasters, they're fishing the Hobie BOS, or, you know, they're fishing all these national kayak tournaments. Yeah, people like to hear from them, but I think people are more apt to take it from an everyday individual that works a 9 to 5, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and say, hey, if this guy can do it, I can do it.
Somebody they can relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I'll let you say this real quick while you brought that up. You know what I caught my 8-pounder on? A $40 Berkeley amp rod is a totally piece of junk. Okay. I think I had that Piscifun reel on it. If not, it was that 13 Fishing Origin 1 Blackout.
Mm-hmm.
Great reel. Brakes are garbage. Okay. But it was a $50 reel with $12 15-pound P line. Okay. It wasn't a $300 setup. And it handled it like a champ, man. Like a champ.
Yeah. And going back to the Cast King stuff, Corey, I've actually got a medium setup over here, right here on this side, and then in which I've got a 13 fishing reel on that other Cast King rod. But yeah, if you go to castking.com and look at their rods and their reels, and you're like, man, these things are affordable.
Very affordable.
And I'm probably gonna go Cast King myself because just me personally, I can't afford another $130 reel and $100 rod. I wanted to go Halo, but Corey, do you have any Cast King rod? I think you mentioned one.
I got 2 Cast King rods and 2 Cast King reels.
Are they 2-piece or 1-piece?
2-piece.
How you like the 2-piece? 2-piece make me nervous, man. That thing shoot out.
No, Cast King doesn't do that.
No kidding. Okay.
When they lock in, they lock in.
They lock in. Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all can see that.
Cyrus, right? Ain't that the Cyrus?
Yeah, that's the Cyrus.
Yeah.
I might have to do that. I might have to go get me some Cast King stuff because they're totally different than it was a few years ago. It's like they did 360 degree the past 2 years on their stuff.
They're tough, and man, I like that price. That's a medium heavy.
Yeah.
And I throw weightless stuff on it.
Yeah.
I throw a weightless Texas rig, a fluke on it.
Shoot.
You got a Cast King reel on that rod?
No, that's actually a 13 fishing reel.
Okay, all right.
That I won at a Brian Latimer tournament.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
That's where all my favorite rods come from too. All the favorite rods I fish.
Yeah.
That when I fished that tournament up at Sinclair, just kind of getting off the subject here, but fishing the tournament at Sinclair last year, or was it earlier this year? No, it was Marching this year. It was Marching this year. And I come in 7th, and he gave everybody in the top 10 rods and reels, and the top 3. I think the top 3 won like trolling motors and stuff like that. And so, but yeah, wow. It's a whole nother topic for a whole nother night about budget fishing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on. So tell me what kind of places y'all like to fish: ponds, lakes, rivers, creeks.
The only time I see Corey's on the river, so.
and I'll tell you right now, I've been here. I fished the lake. I fished Sinclair a lot. I fished Oconee. My favorite is still the river. I'm, from back in Ohio, back in Dayton, we got 3 rivers that go through Dayton, and then we got a lot of creeks. So I used to wade them all the time. When I got down here, I couldn't find no creeks to wade. So I was like, you know what? I'll start wading the river. And then I met one of my friends, Jason, online. He was like, well, be careful because they release the dam waters. And so I was like, that's what made me go ahead and get the kayak instantly. And I was like, well, I just started going to the lake. But then I got to the lake, I'm like, all these boats, I'd rather go back to the river.
You're right.
Boaters, I respect boaters. I know they respect us, most of them, but that's what it is. Most of it is about respect. And a lot of them don't really see you to respect you until they get right up on you. By that time, they're already going so fast. It's like, okay, well, I really can't slow down. It ain't gonna make no difference. I'd rather be on the river than in the lake or the ponds. Now, it's a lot of ponds I like, but I still would rather be on the river because the river is ever changing. So I don't care how many times you go on the same river, it's always something new.
That's right.
Heck
so,
yeah.
John, what do you like to fish?
Well, I predominantly fish a lot of ponds. I have access to just about, there's how many PFAs right here in Middle Georgia? A good handful. I have access to all the PFAs, and they're great fisheries. Some of them can be real tough. Perry is a tough one.
What is that, Flat Creek?
Yes, Flat Creek. That's right. Flat
Yeah.
Creek. That can be tough. I've caught fish out of it. I say the best PFA I've been to personally is the Dodge County PFA
Yeah.
in Eastman, Georgia. You got Big Laser, Flat Creek. You got there you go. There's just some. You got Lake Juliet. I guess you consider that as PFA. It's idle, 25 horse motors only.
Yeah.
But I haven't had no boaters out there that they don't. I've only been out there a couple times in a kayak, but it's a gentle lake, so to speak. It don't have recreation on it.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
so High Falls, that's a park,
Yeah.
but
High Falls State Park.
I haven't been out there yet. But yeah,
You got
small
Omogi?
lakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Omogi.
Old Mogi. I've never caught a fish out there smaller than 4 pounds.
Oh,
Yeah, Old Mogi PFA down there in Hawkinsville, Cochran. Yep, there's some
Yeah.
big ones in
Well,
there. That one's tough too.
yeah, it is. And I tell you a secret about Omogi, because there's another PFA down south around Lake Seminole called Silver Lake PFA,
I've been wanting to get down there bad.
and they have what they call Panic Pond down there.
Yes,
Um,
nothing but double digits been seen coming out of that one.
yeah, so when they were fixing Omogi's dam and their leak and everything in the bottom of the lake, they took all the big fish and moved them down to Panic Pond.
Hmm.
So Panic Pond is a catch and release only, and they've taken some of them fish that they brooded into a fish hatchery. They brooded out of Panic Pond and put back in Okmulgee. So that's
Okay.
how. But yeah, Dodge and Okmulgee, if you can get in there during the certain times of the year, you'll catch double digit fish.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, I think I hooked in one and it got off, but I did catch one a couple springs ago. I think it could have been my first 8 pounder, but I don't know. I didn't have a scale. I just measured. I think it was around close to 23 inches. So that's what, 7 or 8 pounds right there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my official 8 pounder, I actually have it on scale. But yeah, ponds, I do a lot of bank fishing, and like I said, I've caught most of my fish off the bank. And kayak, you get out there in a kayak, you see things, going back, you see things a little different than you being on the bank. So
Right.
it
Yeah.
can make it a little, it does make
Yeah.
it different in
I've
a way.
never
But
understood this philosophy though. When you're fishing on the bank, you're throwing out to the middle of the pond. But if you're in the middle of the pond, you throw it back towards the bank, right?
well, bank fisherman actually has a better advantage over anybody in the boat, other than getting to certain areas. Is when you're on the bank, you can parallel that bank a lot better than you can if you don't have a bunch of vegetation and trees and
Yeah.
stuff in your way.
Yeah.
You can
Right.
parallel the bank a lot better than you can in a boat, because you're constantly moving in a boat and trying to stay, unless you got a trolling motor, of course,
Right.
spotlight. But
Yeah.
average farm boy ain't gonna have that anytime soon, unless he's saving up pretty good. But
Yeah. I don't
going
have.
that,
I have a motor on my kayak, but I don't run. I don't have a spot lock.
That's what I like.
I actually like a spot. I love to have one on my little boat for real, my little panfish. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, the small
So-
lakes and PFAs and I gotta get Corey and John to take me on the river, man. I've been wanting to get on the river bad. I haven't done that yet.
But shoot, we might. If I don't go up to Lanier this weekend, because I'm on a fishing team with Festive Water Paddle Sports. If I don't go up there with them this weekend, then me and John go on Saturday.
Yeah, he told y'all I was gonna be going here soon. This Saturday, I actually do civil water reenactments for another little thing I do, and I'll be doing that this weekend. But Nathan Skinner's supposed to be selling me a bona fide.
Okay, yeah.
His old one. He's
Real good
supposed to
too.
be.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of wrap this thing up, guys, and with this last question, and it's kind of, if you had one thing to suggest to anybody that wanted to begin kayak bass fishing or bass fishing itself, what would you suggest to that person?
Do it. And the reason why I say that is because same thing I say to my clients when I'm training clients and stuff like that. If you're thinking too long, you're thinking wrong. So if it's something that's on your mind, hits your mind, and you're really adamant about doing it, go ahead and do it. Make the plan execute the plan, and go get it.
John,
Go ahead. Repeat the question again.
if you had one thing suggested to a person to either get into kayak bass fishing or into kayak bass fishing, what would it be?
Well, if you wanted to get into kayak fishing, well, if you enjoy being outdoors, for one, if you enjoy being on the water, I'm no fish like some people like to swim and play in the water. I like being on the water, not necessarily in it most of the time, but if you enjoy that kind of stuff, then you got that question in your mind, or you enjoy bank fishing, go ahead and save up, get you a kayak, or do something and trade for a kayak, or somebody's got, go ahead and bite the bullet on it. You never know what you get into. Like, me, I didn't know. I rode a Harley Davidson for 10 years. I used to have, Harley Davidson stuff all over me, boots and chaps, and here I am in fishing shirts, man. And I was like, damn, I used to ride with the Outlaws, man. I wasn't never in the club, but I rode amongst them. But anyway, I never saw myself. I always enjoyed fishing, and when I went out, I always caught fish, and I just never really grasped that until about 3 years ago, or when I received a boat from my father-in-law. But yeah, I would go if there's any doubt in your mind or anything, as far as like, I like what I see on YouTube. I like the tournament scene, or I enjoy going out and fishing. Then go ahead and do it. I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to the fishing industry, man. Either you can stay simple or you can get drowned.
That's
Drowning usually happens pretty quick. You'll wind up with 10,000 baits and only use out of them 10,000 two different color worms. I didn't figure it out. June bug's about the only one you need now, but
that's right.
You got 10,000 different colors, and 3 different colors is all you need. But anyway, that's a whole subject in itself.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're suggesting, and my suggestion would be is try it.
Mm-hmm.
Try it. If you like it, move on.
Right.
If you having second guesses, reach out to somebody that does it and say, "Hey, can you teach me?" Or if I see a young angler at a boat ramp or something, and he comes down to me and says, "Hey, what'd you catch him on today?" Man, I caught him on a buzz bait, this color. Let me cut it off my line and I'll give it to you.
There you go. Right.
I'll get another one. Or I caught it on a crankbait or. And I'm just that type of person. I'll reach in my bag and say, "Hey, here's a handful of these worms. This is what I caught them on today."
I've done that exact same thing. I've people I've run into, and hey, what's up? Check me out on YouTube. Hey, here's some baits, man. This is what I've been catching on. I've done that, and you build relationships that way too.
That's right.
Yes, that's right.
And if you're trying to build a brand, if you're trying to build your brand, that's the way to kind of, hey, this guy from Southeast Georgia kayak bass fishing, man, he was fishing this lake the other day, and I saw him at a boat ramp. He gave me a handful of baits, and then they kind of reach out to you in social media and say, "Hey, when are you going to be here next? I'd like to meet up with you and do some fishing and things like that." So, yeah, guys, hey, we're fixing to do the little closing here. Okay. Once again, thank y'all for taking an hour out of your time tonight away from your family. Corey, I know you got to get in the gym.
Yeah.
My big self needs to get in the gym. I need to lose some weight because John, give us your socials where they can find you at on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Shout them out.
You can find me on Fishing with Faith Outdoors on YouTube and on Facebook groups. You can find me there. I have a good handful of videos you can watch. And on my Facebook group, it's, everything I do is Christian based. So if you send me a invite or what's the word for that? Because it's private, so I have to invite you. to my Facebook. So if you get invited to that, please keep it clean as possible. But anyway, check me out there. Big shout out to Corey and John Wilson. I thank y'all guys, especially John Wilson. He's really helped me get as far as getting contact and everything. And I remember when he started out, he came up quick, man. Good things for him. Good things for him.
Yeah, Corey, where we can find you on your socials, man.
My YouTube channel is Phase Fishing. That's PHAIZE Fishing. TikTok, the same. It's Phase Fishing and Fitness. Instagram, the same thing. Phase Fishing and Fitness. And Facebook is just Corey Richardson. I keep it simple, family, everything. But like I said, like John, Christian based. Plain and simple. But I'm open to communicate with everybody because at the end of the day, I'm about networking with everybody, sharing with everybody, helping anybody that really wants to be helped.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in this type of industry, and when you're doing social media work, and I'm going to kind of close out the show here saying this, but there's a lot of people in this world that won't help you.
Yes.
There's a handful of people that will help you.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm all about. I'm about. That's the reason why I started Southeast Georgia Kayak Bass Fishing, and it's kind of took off from here as a brand for me. I always give a shout out to my wife Christina, because she does all my stuff for me pretty much, as far as my marketing stuff and kind of keeping me pushed and in the right direction, because I kind of wander off sometimes. I'll get out here in this garage and just start piddling with rods and fish baits and get over here watching some YouTube videos and be like, before I know it, the day's gone. I ain't done nothing. But yeah, guys.
Can I make a point real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, John. Make a point real quick.
The reason why I started a YouTube channel, I wanted to give something to the Middle Georgia area that wasn't on YouTube. I wanted to give people in their local area, because everything you see on YouTube is either North Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, and and Arkansas. Really great stuff they do, but it doesn't really apply to what you're fishing. If you can get with somebody local that is in your area that's fishing those local ponds and lakes, you will get a very better idea on how and what to do.
Yeah. So what my plan is, and I tell y'all right here, since y'all were my first two guinea pigs on this type of episode, is I want to do more collaborating with people in person.
Yes.
You talk with people, you see them on social media, you kind of text back and forth, but I want to kind of start getting groups together throughout the state. If everybody's willing to drive 1 hour, either way, just meet up. We'll find a place to meet up, fish, then go to lunch. So that's where I'm kind of moving to, is kind of getting more collaboration with people, more. Because if you see people on different people's channels and social medias, then people are more apt to come watch your content and be involved in your content.
Right.
I need more people from Georgia. I need more people from Georgia on my YouTube channel socialize with me. I got 4 guys in Texas that I socialize with in Texas. Come on, Georgia folks, what's your problem?
But yeah,
I ain't that bad, am I? But yeah, I agree with that. We need to do that for real.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, as far as tournament wise, y'all stay tuned. Everybody out there listening to our crazy conversation tonight, stay tuned as we'll be putting out the tournament schedule here shortly. We're going to have online stuff, and we'll have in live person stuff. So kind of grasp the whole world and just move forward from there. But guys, I want to thank y'all once again for joining the Main Contained Fishing Podcast on the Paddle and Fin Network. Man, it's been a great show. Got finally getting some people on here that are Georgia people.
Happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
And
thank you for having us.
yeah, and y'all stay tuned. Stay with me for a minute. We're going to close out the show,
All right.
and we'll bring you the rest here in a minute. Hey, everyone, and thank you for another great show tonight. Like I said, go follow these guys on their socials. Hit them up. Go fishing with them. If you're in the Middle Georgia area, in the Lake Country area, plenty of lakes: Oconee, Sinclair, Juliet. You got some state parks up there. You got some great PFAs up there. Hit these guys up, and they can show you the wraps up there. Once again, thank you for joining the Main Contained Fishing Podcast on the Paddle and Fin Network, and we will see you next week.